Hey, Kat, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So before we even get into introductions, it's Brokers and Brews. I brewed coffee. I don't know what you did, but I have Starbucks coffee in here. I don't know if you brought anything to the table. That's generally a rule, but Kat, you're in San Francisco area, and I'm in Michigan, so we're 3 hours apart, and it's still too early to be drinking, right? So
Never too early to be drinking during the coronavirus.
that's true. Alcohol sales are through the roof. So Kat, tell us about yourself, your real estate business, and then yourself as far as like, you say San Francisco, but you also specified with me you're 28 miles outside of the area. So what does that mean? Because here in Michigan, 28 miles, you'd still say you're from the area.
So right now I could be in the city in about 15 minutes if I drive fast enough. However, usually it would be about an hour because of the
Okay,
traffic. So I'm in the
sure.
Walnut Creek area, which is about 15 minutes from Berkeley. We are in between Napa and San Francisco, and the weather is a lot warmer here. We're behind we're behind the hills, so we don't get all the cold from the ocean.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And what company do you work for? You're part of a team. Like, how does your real estate business look there?
so I've been with a small boutique broker for the past 6 years, and about a year ago we took the team to Keller Williams, and we're very happy. Actually, our income went up about 85% since we
85%?
yeah,
Wow, that's a
because
pretty big jump.
yeah they helped us a lot with the systems, and they helped us a lot with putting the team together.
Yeah. I did some time at Keller Williams and have great friends there and respect for the company and would agree that especially if you didn't have certain systems in place or certain trainings in place, they do a fantastic job. Overall, I'm sure that there's some brokerages that don't do as good of job, but for the most part, as a company and as a broker, they do fantastic. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
So like what
everywhere.
what's a pretty typical sale look like in a normal situation? Let's not think about the last 30 to 60 days. Let's think in general, like how long is the process? Again, here in Michigan, we don't call it going into escrow. We say that you're kind of under a contract, So different terminology, but I think it all means the same. What's it look like for you in your market?
Uh, we I think it's about the same. It's about 30 days. We do have a lot of international clients, and many times they are all cash.
Hmm.
So on those terms, we have to do different arrangements with them. We have to deal with attorneys. We have to deal with trusts, but pretty much the same.
And what's a pretty standard like price point for you there too?
We do all the price points. Like I have a listing right now for $100,000.
Okay.
We have a reputation of being very expensive, but we are all over the place. A, a listing I sold in Danville a couple of weeks ago was 2.3 million, and that would buy you about um, a tenth of what you would get in Michigan, perhaps.
Sure.
You get a 14,000 square foot lot to 3,500 square foot home that needs updating.
That's funny. So now here, and it sounds like there too. I mean, we have every kind of different market. So I have about 11,500 square foot lot and a 2,800 square foot home. And if I listed it right now, it'd be about $425,000.
That's
And people
amazing.
say I live in an expensive area. So
Really? Oh my God,
uh,
that's so
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Overall, I would say if I put like a dot on a map and did a circle, a 45-mile radius, you'd probably see that the average selling point is somewhere in the mid 200s. And I don't want to give an exact number because it could be 210, it could be 290. I'm not really sure, based on what I just said. But we see very different price points. We have a couple of areas where the median sale might start at 509 or something like that, and it's not uncommon to see the $1 million price point. But those are few and far between. I could probably count on one hand how many areas outside of, in the Metro Detroit area, you would see multiple $1 million properties. So just different for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
But do you work with a lot of investors too?
I personally do not, but there definitely is a huge investment market here. And it kind of started because obviously, when the most recent, as referred to as the Great Recession, it started here a little bit sooner. And I think it started in parts of California pretty soon too, like 2006. 2008 is like the big point. That's the part we all remember as the main part of the crash. But, here in Michigan, around the automotive and everything else, started a little earlier, lasted a little longer. And so anybody who had any money was able to do quite well, because I literally looked at a property that today would be over $500,000. That was $230,000 at the time. It needed a new kitchen, it needed a furnace, and it needed some cosmetic work. So, you can imagine that even if I went pretty luxury on my kitchen, I would be able to more than recoup that cost over time. So we definitely have a big investors market. In fact, there's a private investors group that has a couple thousand members. It's just not my specialty. So I've worked with a couple of investors. I've helped a few people, but that's not what I would say I do, so to speak. What about you guys and your team?
We have investors, and they are usually, if they get about 7% return on their investment, they're happy.
Yeah.
But I know that in your area we could probably send you some of our investors, and they could get a lot more.
They could, and or faster.
Yeah.
They could probably. So I think that there's probably more buy and hold and long term for you guys, whereas here there's less of it, but there's definitely more fix and flip opportunities. The hard part is some of those opportunities, even though the area itself might be up and coming and doing really well, it might still be near an area that's not doing as well. And so I've had a lot of investors that reached out to me, and I say, well, here's a great opportunity. And they go, well, I won't work there. And it's not always Detroit. There's other cities, and I say, okay, I get it, but why not? Well, I had a contractor get, his tool stolen. I had something else. And some of them, don't have personal stories, but I've had some with personal stories. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity here. And, we could definitely have that conversation offline for sure. Cause, there's definitely some chance. And even if I wasn't the right one, definitely people I could put you in touch with that are the right one to help, your investors. Good
Yes.
opportunity for
Yeah.
sure.
Sometimes we get investors who say, okay, I will not tax a property unless it has a 12% return. And I said, absolutely, I could get you that property. I will also buy you a big gun as a closing gift so you can go collect your rent.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep, for sure. And that's, but I think, now you tell me, because you're working with more. I think that, yes, you will get that from some people, but your true investors, they already know that, right? They already know areas they do and don't want to be, why and why not, rates of return, excuse me, and they're coming to you for like support more than the area expert, so to speak. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, our superpower right now is the off the market properties. We are very well plugged into the community. We so if we have an investor or a buyer, what we offer to them that none of our competitors do is we can get them about 150 properties that are off the market that nobody else knows about. And we
Wow.
get that through different private Facebook groups, through a list of divorces, through a list of attorneys that we cooperate with. I'm a member of the local bar association, so I network a lot with the attorneys. We get them through the Top Agent Network. It's a private club where you can only be a member if you're on the top 10% of your market. So you know how they say 80% of the business is done by 20% of the realtors.
Yep.
In our area, it's more like 90-10.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of part-time agents.
Well,
Yeah.
I was a member of Tom Ferry Training Systems for quite a while, and I came out to the summit last year, and so I met obviously a lot of people, but especially a lot of Californians, and it definitely seemed that way. that, like you said, a lot of part-time agents for one reason or another. One, maybe because it's so localized, it's hard to break in. Two, maybe because they didn't really want to be an agent in the first place. And three, because they probably thought, cool, I'm going to sell a $2 million property. I'm going to get, a $60,000 commission. I only need to do three of those a year and I'm making 180 grand. And it's like, first of all, it's hard to do those three. Secondly, you don't get 180 grand because there's fees that are involved. And, third, it takes a long time to get those three. So,
Yeah.
so they became part-time, right? And they sell for their family or friends. And that's fine. I'm not saying anything against that, but I would believe your numbers, like you said, the 90-10, because, those who can really survive and work in, those environments, that's who you want working for you anyways.
And you really cannot do real estate part time. Things are moving so fast, and your clients cannot know more than you do, right?
Hmm. So that's a good point, and kind of comes back to how we kind of started, as far as like you're not really in San Francisco, you're in the kind of vicinity and things like that. Do you find that like your market, Cat's market, is kind of a small few mile radius, or is it pretty big and you do a lot of business over, say, a 30 or 50 mile radius? Like, how does that look for you
Yeah,
out there?
we go about 50 miles out,
Okay.
50 miles out, and we cover all of Contra Costa County and sometimes Alameda County as well as San Francisco County. If we like, we had an amazing property last year that was a burned house, and we got the listing fell in our lap from another seller who also said, "Oh, by the way, I also have that building in San Francisco," and we were able to sell it just to our group of investors off the market and still with about 20 offers. So yeah, we work
Wow, nice.
everywhere. We pretty much don't have a farm. We work our farm, our sphere of influence, our friends. 50% of our business comes from referrals
Sure.
from agents around the country, clients around the country, and people that come in this area. They don't stay long. They they rotate a lot for jobs. So keeping in touch with our database has been really great.
So if somebody comes to the area for a job, why do they go away from the area for the job? Because I'm going to make an assumption that they're probably coming most likely for some sort of tech job. Doesn't have to be, but there's a good chance. So
Yes,
how do they leave the tech mega center for another job? How does that work out?
it's so funny. I didn't realize that until being here for a few years. I have a friend who was working for a company that created benefit packages, and they were bought out by Google. They were bought out by Google. And what Google has now is that an entire department that will create benefit packages to keep their employees. Because the moment somebody starts working for Google, everybody wants them. So now
Yeah.
they're becoming a target and they keep getting job offers left and right. So Google had to become so creative about amazing ways to keep their employees. So now all
Yeah.
the other companies are keeping their employees the same way, like have yoga and restaurants inside the jobs and housing and you name it.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've started to see some of that here with some of our big firms, and we've had like the spin-offs, right? Like we have a Google office in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Not quite the same, but it's a
I
Google
love Ann
office.
Arbor. It's
It's a nice area. Yeah, and so we're going to get to that because you said that you've had family from the area. So I want to touch that here in a second. But for sure, we've had like the same thing with the businesses that have to be creative. Domino's, who's a huge, obviously the biggest, I think now, pizza company, but they're really a tech company. Their main base is here, technically in Ann Arbor, a little bit different area than where Google's at. But in any case, they've done all kinds of stuff to try and keep staff around gyms and things like that, so that you don't have to go anywhere else. So it is amazing to see those changes.
it's the most
Retention.
amazing place in the world. It's so nice. If only the weather was a little better, right?
Yeah, it's like 38 or something today, and it's supposed to rain, but occasionally that rain actually looks like a snowflake. Nothing's sticking, but man, I'll tell you, I'm over it. We're getting toward the end of March, and I'm ready for sunshine and
Yeah,
warm weather.
but the summers are amazing, and you have the water, and it's just so great.
Yeah. So let's go there now, I guess. You said when I asked you if you're available, you said you're in the Detroit area, and that I think your great grandfather came to Detroit from Greece
My
or something. What
grandmother's
was that?
sister, yeah, she came here. She came to Detroit, and actually, she came to Michigan in 1890. But my uncle worked for Ford in the
Okay.
50s, and he always was telling us the story how he was just a line worker in the assembly line, and the cars would go by, and all he had to do is put his part. But sometimes the car would get stuck, and then he he did not have the authority to press the button to stop the assembly line, and neither did the 25 people that worked with him. Only the supervisor had to, but he was on another assembly line. So they would just sit there and see one car crash into another,
Oh my gosh.
like, and they would just sit there and laugh because there was nothing they could do. And just like simple things that later on, of course, they fixed,
Sure.
and they became the great company that we know now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they can hit a button and it stops the line, and you better be sure to have done that properly because you're in a lot of trouble if you didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's funny.
Yes.
So you've been to Michigan because you said you love Ann Arbor.
Every
Why did you come to Michigan? What brings you to Michigan?
when I came from Greece, I was 15, and all my family is in Chicago, and we came to Michigan to visit family. We have family everywhere. I have about 20 cousins.
Sure. One of my good friends is Greek. His dad came here from Greece. They go back. Well, they normally go every other year, but obviously this year is going to be an off year. Um, and so yeah, big family. Even not having a whole lot of family here, they can still have an okay amount of people at the house for a get together. So I believe that. And so, how much family do you still have in Michigan? What parts of Michigan are they in?
Everywhere, everywhere.
Okay.
I have to make a road trip and come visit them all.
Yeah. Well, it's a long trek, and I think that's probably a good segue. I mean, now might not be the time to travel. What has business been like the last? Well, you can give me the amount of time because I don't know. Your guys' protocol might be different than ours. Are you able to practice real estate? How long have you guys kind of had some sort of stay-at-home order? What's that looked like for you in your marketplace?
Yes. So right now, we had a lot of properties fall off the market, everything that was pending. I would say about 30% of the pending properties fell through. Uh, since March 24th, mostly the higher end, the
And were
higher
those cash or are they mortgages?
mortgages, the more
Okay.
mortgages. We still had a few closed because people will still have to move. They have to
Right.
they have to move, and if they're in love with the property and they're buying it for the long term, does not matter, right?
Sure.
So 30% of them fell through. The lower end is fine. We've had FHA and VA, of course. Now they have different guidelines. You have to have 680 credit score. Our self-employed stated income, it came out through the door very fast. We've had a few closings at a 3% interest rate, which was incredible. 3% for 30-year fix. I think that rate was only good for about a minute
Yes,
before
that's about
everything.
right.
Yeah. And I think that overall the advantage we have right now is very low inventory.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of the agents are not working because they're so busy with their kids. I know two of
Sure.
my mates are not able to come to work because the kids are struggling with the homeschooling. Um,
Hmm.
and then you have a captive audience of buyers that are online looking at properties, and what an opportunity, what a great opportunity if you're a seller to list now. And with the technology that we have, with the virtual reality, with the 3D tours, like they don't need to do much, right?
Yeah, it's certainly gotten a lot easier. So I don't know if I shared with you, but here in Michigan, when we put our official stay-at-home order, so we canceled schools effective March 17th, but then our stay-home order didn't start until March 23rd. So we had this time where, yes, kids were home, but people were allowed to go do whatever they wanted to go do. And March 23rd came, and you weren't allowed to do that because some businesses were forced to be closed. And in that, they started saying, well, if you're essential, you can work. So, like the grocery stores and things like that. But if you're non essential, you cannot. And real estate was called non essential.
That's
So,
crazy. That's not right.
only 10 states have had that. And actually, it's not exactly true. There was only maybe 5 or 6 that truly called it non essential. And there were 4 or 5 that they said there was like ways that you could be, but otherwise you weren't. So they weren't real specific, and I don't know how they're handling that. But locally here, if you can't work from home, you can't work. We can't go to a vacant home and shoot photos on our own, phone. We can't hire a photographer to go do it, anything like that. So right now, if I'm selling your house, I need you to go through your home and do video on your cell phone and then send that to me. And we're doing that, right? We're doing these Zoom calls so that we can talk about how to do it and all this stuff. So we're doing it, and it's working, and it's a temporary solution that works, certainly not long term. But you're right. I mean, now more than ever, the agents who had 3D Matterport tours or YouTube videos or anything else are succeeding here because people don't have to, nor do they want to leave their house to shop for a home. They can see it without going, and then if they really, really love it and put an offer in on it, they can actually show up at the inspection to physically see it in person and make sure that it's, the house that they thought it would be. So that's probably going to change sometime here soon. But for now, that's the way we've been operating.
I was talking to a friend from North Carolina the other day who said that you can only show a property if it is pending. So what he's been doing to bypass this, I'm not sure it's ethical, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do to
Sure.
survive. He's been putting properties pending for 48 hours in order to get the group of people in, see the property, and then unpending them, putting them
That's a
back on the
strange,
market.
that's a
Like,
strange
wow,
rule.
we're gonna
Yeah.
find creative ways to get through this and work. But like I would say, 95% of all of it is the mindset, like keeping yourself from not going crazy
Yeah.
and keeping the mindset. And I'm sure that if you're a Tom Ferry person, that you are all about your mindset. I can feel your energy is like pretty contagious.
It's super important. I've tried to say to my kids, to myself, to anyone, yes, you can have some frustrations, you can get, upset and whatever, but you can't stay there. It's what you do after that, right? So just the other day, we had to do something for school online and we couldn't log in. And so for a couple of minutes, it was like, oh my God, I was like, these stupid things. But like 2 seconds later, you got to get over it. Yeah, I'm not going to fester on it. And that's a really simple example. But, especially right now, if you're healthy and you're not concerned about you're not concerned that you're personally sick or getting sick, then like, what's there to worry about? Because we know people that are getting sick. There are people that are dying. I have friends who have lost somebody to this COVID-19, disease, virus. And that's way more concerning than, even if your car didn't start that day, like there's so much more to life than this, whether it's real estate or anything else. So it's easy to stay positive about some of these things because there's much bigger things to be worried or negative about, so to speak.
I have my husband who's a healthcare professional, so I see him every day getting ready to go to the ICU and be in the front line. So for me, it's like, wow, what an inspiration. Like he does it and it's like, it's a job. I have to do it. And it's like, okay, I have my job. I have to do it. I have to help people, right? Because
Right.
If we don't get in front of them to help them, they will probably end up in the wrong hands on somebody who's maybe going to cost them thousands of dollars, somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. So you have to be very like, wow, I have to get there and help as many people as I can.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, clearly, it's a different level, and I always want to be careful when we start, comparing two different professions. But at the end of the day, the reason that both professions are important is because you help people. It's just that we help in a much different way. But financially, I mean, imagine entering into a contract that you don't understand, and you have nobody backing you on it, and then you have an issue and you have no way out, or you are going to be sued because you signed something that you didn't know you were signing. And that's where, I mean, on the listing side, we market properties and then we help negotiate. And on the buy side, we know what the properties look like in the areas that we take our buyers, and then we help. So one way or the other, we're always knowing about the housing, and then we have to help with contracts. And contracts aren't even universal. I don't know if they are in your market, but every broker has their own contract, different boards. So we have multiple boards that you can belong to as a
Areas,
realtor.
different
Yeah.
areas have different disclosures. Yes.
Yeah. So you always have to be wary of that and know that, here, some places require an inspection by the city to sell a home. You have to get a C of O. Some don't. So if you're selling a property and you don't know that, your buyer also cannot actually move into the house without that C of O. And so if two parties are representing themselves and they don't know some of these small things that are very easy to find out, but maybe you would never think about, especially during such an emotional time, you could legally not be allowed to move into your brand new home you just bought. It's amazing.
Yeah, and here we also have like point of sale ordinances where you have to say put a gas cutoff. These are you have to put like different like low flow toilets, different plumbing, or all these government regulations that you have to comply with. And if you're a seller and you try to sell on your own, you're gonna be living the rest of your life looking over your shoulder because you
Yeah.
haven't been protected. Our files, when they're completed, they're about this big, and it's all about protecting them so they don't get sued and they don't have to buy their house back, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. I've had not too many scenarios where we've had really crazy, scary things come up, but I certainly had one where after closing, the buyer, started peeling away the floor in the basement, and when they did so, they were basically able to do it with their hand because the stuff was kind of wet underneath.
Oh,
And so then they followed that to the wall, and what it really looked like was that the it was a cover up. It wasn't, because things do happen, right? It is certainly possible for you and I to close on a transaction today and tomorrow that basement leak. It is absolutely a possibility, and it's happened to people. But it's also a possibility that this has been going on and they put that wall up over the leak intentionally to cover it to try and sell the house. And that's what she believed happened. And
terrible.
it is. It's really terrible. And then the person moved out of state. So I mean, I don't even. I asked her for some follow ups and she gave me some, but then she kind of like let it go with me anyways and pursued. She works for a law firm, so I think she was able to get the proper guidance on what to do. But scary stuff. So, what protocols? What different things do you do now, or if anything, than what you did 2 months ago when it comes to showing a property, meeting a client to list their property, or anything like that? Anything new for you guys?
Everything online, everything on Zoom, everything. We don't meet people in person anymore.
Yeah. Do you think it'll stay that way? Do you anticipate, let's just say there's vaccines and nobody's sick and all this stuff. Do you think just because we've changed the way that we've done business that you'll just do it this way, that it's become more convenient, or is it inconvenient?
Oh my God, it's so much easier. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm a hugger though, so I miss being around my people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's always that give and take, right? With like, this is easy. I'm in my home, you're in your home, and actually we would not be able to meet each other without technology. But you're not selling my house and I'm not selling yours. And then if we were, then like you say, I mean, at the end, you like to shake a hand, give a hug, something. I mean, I've literally been hugged and been told I was a jerk at closing. It just depended, right? And so, but now you can't do that. And I don't know if we'll ever do that. I don't know if anyone's ever going to give a person that they don't know a hug again. I don't know.
We have to invent the new handshake, right? What are we gonna do? It's gonna be
I
the
don't
elbow.
know. They say the elbow thing, but I feel like even that, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't touch my elbow after, but
Yeah,
it seems strange. So we'll come
yeah.
up with something, I'm
No,
sure.
let's just stay healthy through this, and we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I have to get going, but I'm
Sure.
so happy that I got to talk to you, and
Yeah. And
you're amazing, really. I'm looking forward to sending you all my referrals now that I have an agent in in Michigan. What areas exactly do you cover?
so I live in a city called South Lyon or Lyon Township. It's pretty small, but we're just outside of a little bit bigger area, Novi, and you would probably say it's Novi, because it's
Yes.
spelled Novi. Yep. And
Yeah.
but I'm right between. I'm literally between like Ann Arbor and Detroit. So I'm about 20 minutes from Ann Arbor, and I'm about 35 minutes from Detroit. So I mean, if you really did a map type of thing, you'd see that I'm pretty close to pretty much every major city area that a lot of people would probably be coming to if they were coming to the Michigan market, unless you're coming to the west side of the state, because there's a big market on the west side of the state. But if you're coming to the Metro Detroit area, I would really say that for the most part, I probably cover it all. There's definitely some cities that I would say, nope, let me help you with somebody else there. So
If I were you, I would send an email to like every agent in California for once a week with a $200,000 property that's rentable, and say, okay, this is the house of the week, and period. You'd sell it instantly because they'd
that's funny.
be buying it for themselves.
And so, for anyone that's just like local to Michigan that hears this, it's like keep in mind when you talk about our market and listen to the difference between what you just said and what I would say. Because I would say if you had $1 million property, don't send it to me. I don't have anybody that wants to move out there for it. I've had a few friends move from Michigan to California. It took them 3 to 5 years to buy a house because they were made, 1.2, $1.5 million property. They're like, this is nuts.
Taxes too. It's so expensive to live here. How much
Yeah.
is your gas today? Because mine's still $4 a gallon.
Our gas is down to about $1.20, but since I can't go show homes, I haven't bought gas in about 4 weeks. So,
I
yeah,
know.
so
I feel like a teenager. Like gas is cheaper, but I'm grounded and I can't go anywhere.
exactly. Yes, we've joked, gas is now you get about 3 weeks to the gallon. So, um, so anyways, Kat, I appreciate you joining us,
Thank
giving
you
us
so
some
much.
insight into your market, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Very nice meeting you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.